How's everyone doing? It's 12:01. We're late.
All right, well then I guess we're ready.
Okay.
Okay, everyone, so please help me welcome Michael Speed, Michael Speed Photography. He's here with us today. He's done work for me personally. He does work for James. He's amazing, and he's here to tell us all about what he does. And give
Yep.
us some tips.
Tips on, I'm going to kind of show you, towards the end, I'll show you what I do and why maybe hiring someone is a little bit better than doing it on your own, depending on where your photography skills are. So the thing about real estate photography is it's technical, kind of quick. Like you're utilizing lots of like aspects of photography. Okay, so you're kind of diving in if you want to really do it well. All right, but that's my name, Michael Speed. Some contact information. I have a card here if you want one. You can holler at me. And just remember, so this whole thing, sometimes if you're going to do it by yourself, is that not get overwhelmed. Each part is one little piece, and you just got to focus on that piece. And if you have trouble with that piece, you work on it and then move to the next part, okay? So I'm going to start with the basics. This is my lovely home in Radford Village, and this is what it looks like on any day, really. So I recently removed a couple of bushes here. I promise it looks better now, even with that, but we've got the kiddie pool. I have a stroller up here. There's a hose kind of dangled out. I always have a collection of things right here, okay? And so it's similar to like painting. If you tape first, it just makes everything later faster, okay? There's less cleanup later, so you want to prepare for your photos. Ceiling lights on. If there's a bunch of natural lights, you can turn those off, but if it's anything like my house, you're going to want as much light as possible in there. Preparing the house next, ceiling fans. If those are off, that's best, because when you're shooting inside, even with lights on, your shutter speeds are a little longer, and so there can be like distracting movement in a fan. Okay. And so here we have. I've cleaned up my yard, which I should do occasionally at least. And so I've got a presentation of my house from a similar place towards the road, really. This is an accurate representation of what my house looks like, but I don't necessarily want to portray the big stump in front, okay? And so in real estate photography, we're not really lying about anything. You can't like edit something out that is there, because that would be deceiving to a would-be buyer. But you can selectively frame and let the selling agent talk about how they're going to take the stump out next week or something like that, okay? So basically, when it comes to the exterior shot, I've actually moved across the street and zoomed in a little bit to really narrow down my house and eliminate any potential distractions. And I just cropped, there was just a little bit of a branch from that sticking up, and I just cropped that out. So now I have a clean shot of my house with no clutter or distractions. When it comes to clutter, that applies to the inside as well, okay? And sometimes it's a team effort. I just wanted to use this shot as an example, because behind here, on this table, when I shot this photo, there's, I'm going to say 300, but there might have been 20 or 30 bottles of spices that this guy cooks with, and he left them all right there. And so it was more of a team effort between the listing agent and me. So I shot this room, hiding that stuff, went to shoot the office while then I moved back over here and shot everything when they moved the spices down on the other side of the bar. So it's just one of those things, if you can't like get it all in a closet, which sometimes you do, that's another way to do it. You want to present the house as good as possible with like what they would call a statement shot. And this is one of those situations where you're diving in a little bit deeper into photography. Like us nature photographers, myself, planning, sometimes we can plan a shoot 2 months in advance, like where the moon's going to be in a certain spot. This is just a little more simple than that, but all you need to do is kind of know if the house is facing west, you might want to shoot it in the afternoon, and if the house is facing east, you might want to shoot it in the evening or in the morning. And that just really lets your house stand out, even without like tons of photo manipulation. Even a smartphone could really do a good job there. Now, just to kind of give you an example of a bit of a contrast, sometimes schedules don't permit you shooting with the sun in the front, and just even this like kind of simple but nice brick ranch, just the lighting looks so much more pleasant than this backlit house that was even a towering behemoth. The interior photos is where, and especially the statement like interior photo, is where doing this with a point and shoot camera or a smartphone is going to be a little bit tricky, okay? Because a smartphone just doesn't have that super wide, like pull you in look to it, okay? It's just a little more challenging. You can do it with anything, and I've got a couple examples of shortly, but really this is where you kind of would set yourself apart by hiring or shooting it with a wide angle lens. And basically you're doing the same thing that any like photographer, nature, whatever would do, and you're kind of anchoring your image with things near to the camera and allowing someone's eyes to kind of walk through, and that just really shows a lot of depth. And when you have your image kind of filled with stuff, there's no blank space that someone's just going to get lost on, and it just makes a real pleasing image. It's easy to look at, and that's really what you want them to be, is easy to look at and inviting. Here's a couple more. The kitchen one's super simple, but this kind of the dining room kitchen where you have the dining table as kind of your anchor, and you can see all the nice cabinets in the background. That one should be early on in the portfolio as well. Sometimes you don't have stuff in the house. That happens a lot. You just want to focus on a positive aspect of the house. In this situation, it was a nice big window. They actually had this super cool wall that was in there. So even if the house is empty, your options, you have tons of options, okay? The one thing I like to do, and here's James' house, that one we were just talking about. One thing, and this was a really easy house to do it, because when you focus on creating a sense of place, all right? And so you're wanting to kind of anchor multiple photos together to let the viewer have a sense of the layout when they walk through it. I really prefer to have a shot with a smidge of the door, just so the front door, just so the person knows it. If you ever hire me and you don't like that, I don't have to do that, but that's just how I will do it by default. And so as we're looking in, we've got this really cool like bookshelf underneath the stairway and the brick on the chimney type setup there. And then my next shot, simply walk over here. I'm now pointed left a little bit. You still have a reference of where these things are, but now you can see into the master bedroom. And then while you're creating that sense of place, and you want to get shots of the details, instead of just like zooming in and taking a picture of that bookcase, I'll just step close. Again, this is where it's real easy when you have a wide angle. I'll just step a little bit closer, use that to kind of fill in with these two pictures, and now I have an idea of where the dining room is a little bit better. Same thing, looking back, you got that shape there, and and it just goes throughout the whole portfolio, basically. Towards the end of this portfolio, I can't remember if there was enough room to do it, but a shot kind of from the stairs looking back down in as you go upstairs gives you a really good idea of how that looks as well. This one is touching on a couple of things, creating a sense of place, and how I feel is a positive way to shoot half bathrooms. Sometimes I see half bathrooms where it's like, here's the toilet and here's the sink, and like, there it is, guys. And we have a half bath. That is telling a story. It's true. But I don't necessarily think that those types of photos benefit a portfolio of a house. So here we've got the same shot that I always take with a little bit of the door. And then my next shot is just a couple steps in to the right, but now I can show the viewer with how the stairs are where the half bathroom is. And then squeezing way over behind it, I'm able to shoot the sink and back towards the stairs. And then, of course, the final one before we enter that cool room with the double doors, you see that every shot has the stairs as an anchor there. So you get an idea of what it looks like when you walk in right there real easily. There's not any like question about it. How many of these do I have? One more? All right. So this one is somewhat similar, and I just kind of really wanted to stress the half bath setup. Like we've got the main, I'm sorry, I'm standing right in front of it. We have, of course, the main shot. This one's a little more of a confined house, even though it was like a large house. So this makes it a little more challenging, but basically I'll come in, take the shot with the door kind of anchoring where we're at, take literally 3 steps in, turning to the right, and now I'm looking in the kitchen, but I still have the door as a reference. Walk down the hall just a little bit, there's my half bath with this kind of unique lamp, I'd say, kind of anchoring that side, and then just all I did was take a couple steps back, flip that way, and now I have a good reference of what the beginning looks like, and that's going to flow throughout the portfolio. Each photo will have a snippet of the last one, and so you're just going to have a nice walkthrough.
That's very cool. So how many, these are like obviously ones that you've picked for this, but like how many of these shots were you taking just one of this angle, or are you taking 2 or 3 and then moving on to the next angle?
The actual images,
Yeah.
I take between 3 and 5. One frame, I don't move the camera, it's the HDR.
Right.
Yeah, so I'll take 3 or 5, depending on the lighting, each time. Okay? We're going to touch on that in a sec. They are generally in an order. I do start on the outside, work my way around the house, and then hit that. I always start with that as the beginning. Sometimes there will be a photo or 2 at the end of the portfolio as I'm walking back out of the house where I'm like, maybe I forgot that, maybe I didn't. So I'll shoot something just for good measure, because I'd rather have an extra photo after I leave than to drive back out and try to shoot. You know what I mean? But no, for the most part, yes, they're in an order. So yeah, and I love feedback too. A lot of, go ahead.
Sorry. So are you always using a tripod or?
Every time.
Okay.
Yep. A lot of real estate agents, maybe the old school ones, I'm not sure, but they like 20 pictures or 30 pictures. They just want the portfolio to be short and sweet. Some like 45 pictures. It really just depends. And you, like in your communications with me, if you're one that prefers a smaller portfolio, I don't have to send you a bunch of extra pictures, you know? That way I don't want me causing you work. I want to deliver you a product and you be able to just do it. Because I size them down for you and everything, because I know sometimes there's like sizing issues. But if you want more or less, that's something that is easy to fix. I just take more or take less.
I love the fact that you do a picture of the door and leave it open and you can kind of see, because I think it's always confusing when you walk in, when you see the pictures that other agents take and you don't know where the front of the home is or what room you're walking into. I love that.
Yep. So that being said, now again, we talked about how this would be challenging to do with a smartphone in a lot of situations. But basically, I'm going to show you a couple slides next, but if you think about, like, if you were to draw a square, like right there on these, that would be about what a smartphone would show you, or a point and shoot camera. Both have the same limitation just about, okay? Now, just a couple benefits of hiring or using a wide angle it just makes a lot of sense. You have, like, I could probably get this. I was doing this while I was shooting, so of course it was quick, but it wasn't my number one priority. I just wanted to kind of give a representation of the field of view. You actually have like a snippet of what the floor looks like in this one, as well as just better color. You have control. I have control over the color and the white balance is what they call it when I shoot with this. But on a smartphone, most of that's automatic, and it's kind of guessing. The camera's guessing. Where when I shoot it, I am the one guessing. I guess I'm the one telling it what to do. This is another good example. Like this vanity was awesome, for just like a regular downstairs setup. You're deleting the uhs, right? No?
Yes,
Okay.
of course.
But that, you get a better sense. I mean, granted, this mirror could have been cleaner, but you get a better sense of where the shower is when you can see it like that into there. Where,
Since the room is a whole
yeah. And it's not disingenuous. Like you're still telling a true story. This one, the photo on the left, I actually spent time, and I took that in the best spot that I could think to take with my smartphone, and I even edited it with the mobile program to kind of give a better example. And it's not just the fact that you'll lose like your color, and the color might be a little bit different, but this whole deal was really cool. Like what that part of the house is called on the inside. Ceiling. Yeah. That's cool.
Are you editing the wide angle? Like, is that, lightened and contrasted and colored and all that?
I feel like I tell a pretty good story, but so basically, I'm gonna get to that in a bit. Yes, there's nothing. Everything is edited to a certain extent. So has this one. Note, like when I'm shooting, well, this one might have been more straight up, but like when I'm shooting this kind of stuff, the camera's pointed down a little bit, and when you point the camera down, you get these, all the lines start to come up, because they meet, because your camera sensor is seeing it from a different distance. And so you fix that in post. So you're editing that, okay? And then all lenses, even the best ones, and I have a pretty good one, it's not the best, but I have a pretty good one, have some distortion where they like have a little bit of like bowiness to them. That gets fixed. Yeah. But so the thing is, like when it comes to editing them, when most of the work is done by capturing multiple exposures. So you are setting the white balance correctly in the camera. I don't know if you've ever ran through a white balance. You see how the color changes a million times. You are setting the white balance correctly in camera, so that way I don't have to like mess with it. I'm looking at the screen and I'm looking at the scene and I'm matching it up so it's correct. But then you're taking basically 3 pictures, one just normal picture, and this is going to come in a few more slides. One normally exposed photo, one that's really dark and it just shows this stuff and some lights, and then one that's super bright that shows better shadows. I will say that on a computer screen, this TV has a little bit more contrast than a computer screen. So these, like what I'm seeing here, like you can see detail in the wood a lot more than on a TV. But
Can it still depend on whether they're looking at your pictures on a phone?
phone will have a similar contrast to this. If they're looking at it on a TV, that's where it's going to fall apart. On a phone, iPad, even a cheap like tablet will display it a little bit better than a TV. Okay, so this one is another good example of not only hiring or using a wide-angle lens on a nice camera or any real camera that you have some control over. So not only do we have the ability to create the sense of place with where the living room is and the dining room. I guess that's not the dining room, whatever that little middle thing there, the nook, yeah, and the sink. But you're also, if you'll notice, like this one is what it looks like. That's the color of the cabinets. So that is on just an automatic setting, and it just got the white balance wrong is all, but it makes it look like a completely different color. Because I think,
Like cherries.
yeah, there are cabinets that look like that. It's just not these ones.
Are you using flash?
No. I will sometimes use flash on a small ranch if it's kind of a time quick thing, but like if the client needs them delivered in 3 hours or something like that, I'll use flash. That speeds it up. But I really, after trying both flash and HDR, I've come to prefer HDR. Hey, sorry.
No, some photographers that I've seen where, like, you walk into the room and you go,
Yeah.
this is like a third the size it looks online.
Yeah. Well, so if there's a couple of things that could cause that. Part of that is probably a natural consequence of using some wide-angle photography, but if you're not correcting for distortion, it can it can seem pushed away further than it is. If you're shooting rooms straight on with a wall on each side, that will, like, all those converging lines will make it feel like it's larger than it is. And so I'm going to go on the next slide. Oh, so this one's a fairly good example. So I try, and I have a couple more just to kind of show, but I don't like to have a wall on this side if I can. Like, I like to do a 2-wall shot. I mean, sometimes there's going to be 3 walls. It is what it is. But the 2-wall shot doesn't really have that third line coming down the side, and it just kind of lets them imagine what's over there. It doesn't, like, block you in. So it kind of serves 2 purposes, I guess.
So is a fisheye lens the same?
That would not be a good thing to use.
Okay.
Because a rectilinear lens is what we use here, and that keeps straight lines straight. Fisheye lenses keep circles circular. But, so if you shoot straight lines with a fisheye lens, you get that super wide. That's what a fisheye is, like what I use for a virtual tour when you want to, like, look around. That's where those come into play. But you wouldn't want to. A fisheye would not be the best solution.
Did that and it looked horrible.
Yeah.
He put photos on with a
I
fisheye.
think it was like a Fizbo type. That, yeah, and it looked really bad.
Well, there was a listing out where you had sold the listing, Rick Saunders.
Oh, yeah, Millstone.
Yeah, on Millstone. Yes. There was a picture where it looked like that room with the fireplace was like
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
100
those were
feet
to see.
long.
I think what happens too sometimes is the ratio of your picture, you might be, when you load it up to the MLS, they will try to
Stretch.
fit their screen. for
Oof,
their-
yeah, that
so
could
you have
cause a
ratios that are
problem.
More landscape than portrait, and when you load it up, it'll take your narrow or portrait shape and it'll wonk it and it gets adjusted when you upload it, and it doesn't look like the picture you took.
Yeah, that's
because they adjust it for their display.
Yep.
so
And
the
you got to make
ratio
sure your
after
photo
the
is
picture
the
gets
right
changed.
dimensions, basically, before you send it in, so that way the change is minimal. But I know exactly what you're talking about. Most realtors that I've talked to don't, even though sometimes a vertical shot would be what is needed to, like, cover the scene, they don't want those because of the MLS, because they're all, like, horizontal. Because those tiny bathrooms, like, that's perfect for a vertical photo, but it just doesn't. This one here is another good representation. This is a comfortable but small deck on the back of a house, and so just being able to, give a sense that you can fit a chair on it, yeah. And so, and I'm sure if I took another few seconds, I could have got a shot that had better sky, but this was more just like, well, I wonder what it looks like with this phone.
Seems like a pretty decent sky to me.
Well, no, like, my sky's good. My little sky is not good.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, because everything, yeah, we don't want any white skies, that's for sure. Okay. So this is what I was talking about with the 2 walls. This is somewhat a big deal, somewhat not. It just depends on the room, really. The 2 wall, like this one here, you're not giving the viewer any reason to think that the room stops right there. You're just showing them a corner of the room. And this one here, just depending on the room, this, even including a little bit of the wall, can really kind of case in what it looks like. Because, yeah, it's hard to tell, like, how big a room is, even depending on the lens. Also, one thing that's very important here, like, if we were to smartphone this, we'd be, like, snapping this part. And so you don't just want a shot of the corner of the room. You want, what the floor looks like, and maybe if there's a ceiling fixture and everything.
Sounds visually interesting.
Yeah. Give me one sec. I have to see.
Picture
Yeah, right.
Okay, so now let's just say that you really want to use your phone, okay, and take the picture, all right? After all we've talked about. I couldn't get this thing to go on silent. I'm really sorry about that. So there's a couple things you can do to iPhoneography a house somewhat well. I didn't even realize how off this was until I could put it next to my photo. So that I didn't even think about changing the color when I took it or when I started to edit it. But basically, what you are going to want to do if you must do this is use a program called Adobe Lightroom. It's totally free on your phone, all right? It's like crazy advanced software that's super, super easy to use, okay? So
It's on your phone?
it's, yeah, Adobe Lightroom, mobile, okay? I love Adobe Lightroom because I can like upload stuff onto my computer, shows up on my phone, shows up on my iPad, like, and it's all 3 different operating systems. It's super cool. I don't need to like have a certain brand of anything to work. But basically, you're going to import your photo. It's super easy. This stuff you guys know how to do. Like, but basically, you're going to want to just fix the verticals. And that's going to add a ton to your photo because when you first, and I think this one was already fixed, but when I first took that, it's kind of pointed down. So all the lines are pointed up a little bit like that. And so all you do is just drag this vertical slider and it'll fix your photos. Okay? And that's just something super simple that will add a lot to a listing if you want to shoot it with a smartphone. So now here's, I don't know how much you guys want to get into this, but I have basically, I want to just touch on HDR, all right? And so HDR is a really good way to display a scene without losing the detail, okay? So like if I were to just come in with any camera and just shoot for the room, it would look someone like that. It might be a little bit darker, but you're gonna lose like everything in the windows and you're not gonna be able to give a sense of what that looks like outside. For some houses that might be a good thing, but in most that we shoot, you know, there's at least some pleasant scene around it. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So who has like a digital Rebel or like a Nikon that they got for Christmas or something? Okay. So if you have that, you have this and this generally, okay? Because it came with one of these. And that is good enough to take any of the outside photos that I've showed you. Like I could take one that's just as good with that. The big difference is where you're gonna you need a wider frame, and that's gonna be like an investment on your part, okay, if you guys were to jump into this. And that's fine, that's not a big deal at all. Depending on how much time you wanna spend on it and how much you value that kind of thing, you can be cranking these out in no time. And then just 3 other things is all you'll need to get started. A tripod. I have a tripod right here. Those are like $300. You can get a tripod that's $80 and it will take care of you. If you get a tripod that's $30, you'll need another tripod like $30 later. Yeah. They're like, I mean, if you talk to like a businessman who's had shoes since 2003, like they're just like that. They'll last a long time if you take care of them and buy a decent one. So, and one thing that's critically important, okay? And I'm just going to show you guys how to do this anyways, even if you don't want to. But there are tiny little devices that are called bubble levels that you slide into the hot shoe of your camera. If you have a digital Rebel or a Nikon that you got for Christmas, it has one of those, okay? And that is perfectly level with your camera's sensor, all right? Some cameras, more and more nowadays, have virtual horizons in them, okay? So I have like a virtual horizon in here, and it tells me, I don't know if you can see that where it turns green, it tells me exactly where I'm at. And it even goes like the other way. It'll tell me like how much issue I'm gonna have. There's just a yellow, he knows, he's seen the back of it. As he's getting out of my way, he's seen the back of it. But that right there, it's going back to the painting reference. If you prepare just a little bit and take a level photo that's going to save you a ton of time on the back end. Even having done this a bunch, if I happen to take a photo that's crooked, it takes me more than like 45 seconds to correct it. And that's like a bummer. I don't like doing that. So I want to get it just right. Because when you go to fix for example, this shot here, I'm coming in, I don't want all the ceiling, okay? I want more floor. But when I'm shooting it, I'm pointing down, so notice all my lines are going up. If my camera is perfectly level, even though pointed down, when I go to fix those verticals in a program that's not that much different than that Adobe Lightroom I showed you, it's just going to line up perfectly. But if my camera's a little bit crooked, they're not going to line up perfectly, and I'm going to have to like kind of play with it to get it just right. It's just one of those things. It's faster if you just do it right the first time. And I've learned the hard way like 1,000 times on everything. Then that's not just photography. My entire life is learning the hard way.
Are these 3 images manual or automatic with the camera?
You can do it either way. They are manually exposed.
Okay.
So, but I set, I was going to try and show you guys how to do one of these on auto, but my camera doesn't let you bracket photos on auto, okay? If you can look up your model number and how to bracket photos, and
It combines the 3.
it'll take 3. Yeah. I had to Google it when I first started taking pictures of how to bracket photos.
And it
Yep.
happens automatically.
Yep.
So you don't
And you
have to
choose the stop. So you can choose them that are close together, you can choose them that are far away from each other. So this would be way bright and this would be way dark. Or you can choose them that are kind of close. You just play with it. Shoot your own house a bunch of times and just like your living room, and just try it and see what looks the best. The thing about photography and learning photography, it's an art and it's kind of a science. So the art stuff gets in the way of making realistic photos because you want it to like look cool, but you don't want it to like look cool. You want it to look real, and that's the hard part. This is just a 15, so this is a prime.
Okay.
So I have one. This is my whole kit. Well, I have a drone that goes in this bag too. I didn't bring it, but this is the whole kit right here. These 2 lenses. This is a 28-300. Like photography snobs scoff at lenses like these because it's a super zoom, but I don't want to change lenses when I'm walking around, so I don't. That's what I use for 90% of all the exterior pictures, is a lens just like that. There's versions of that in the camera that you have. And if you have a camera and you guys are curious of like what you have, like you go home and look at what you have and say, what do you think I'd need? I can shoot you a link to like a couple that will give you an idea, okay? Because yeah, you might, if you have like something you got for Christmas, it probably doesn't need to be this big. It probably can be a little bit smaller, okay? Because this is fit for a larger format.
What was that range on that? What was that called? The 18 to
28 to 300. So if you have a digital Rebel or something like that, you're probably looking for an 18 to something, because that is the equivalent. We can get into that. That's super fun. Just 1.5, multiply everything by 1.5. And so the software is Adobe Lightroom. If you guys would like, I can just make one real quick if you want. Do you want me to just make an HDR real quick?
Yes.
Okay. High dynamic range. So your eyes can see something like 20,000 brightnesses, okay? Your camera can see like 800. And so what we do, gosh, I hope I don't ruin this. Here we go. Sorry, got my, okay, so I have it set to take 3 pictures, and if you're having trouble finding how your camera does it, I can help you. I can look up and help you with it. Most cameras do it. I use a 2-set, even though I have this like cool sturdy tripod that it weighs 25 pounds, I always use a 2-second timer. And so that way there's no camera shake, nothing, okay? And so if you can see the back, and I'll show these to you shortly on the computer, but there's a dark one, a bright one, and a middle one. And so if I was just taking one picture, that's what it would come out looking like, okay? This is how I walk around houses. Here we go. Okay, so can you switch this? Or can I switch this? My computer?
So on your camera, can I see where you
Sure.
just showed the button? No, I've seen.
Oh.
I got bifocals down here, so yeah.
Oh, well, so this is a different actually, no. It's saved on both cards. That's cool.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, you've got, there you go. I was like, I took the card out. Why is it not? Oh, great. What's going on here? Here we are. Okay.
So I use like the tripod and I use the remote so I don't touch the camera.
That works too.
Yeah.
I just don't like the remote.
Because I know I'm going to go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. So basically, Lightroom, Adobe Lightroom is what I use for 99% of all the photos that I make. Okay, it does all the photo handling. It's arguably cheap. It's $10 a month, and you get Photoshop with it. It's pretty sweet. There's sometimes like student discounts if you have a kid going to school or something like that. I was able to use my wife's discount last year. It was super cool. But basically, you just plug your memory card into the computer. I think it should just pop up. You hit library. If you need any, then you hit import. And I'm just going to do that. So one thing I didn't do was measure white balance, and I apologize. Okay, so now we have our 3 photos here. And I'm going to jump over to the Develop tab. All right, so here I've got my 3 photos down here. You can see all of the different brightnesses, all right? Now, just like controlling like a Windows File Explorer, you just hit Shift, click, okay? Now, I will hit Control H just because I use the quick marks, but if you right-click on this, Photo Merge, HDR, and I have auto align turned off because I don't need that, and I don't have any ghosting because there's no, that'll like take out moving stuff if a cat walked in your photo. And so that's what you get right off the bat, okay? It's way warmer than it's supposed to be, but yeah, you can see, and then it takes, to be honest, your computer might be faster than this. Oh, I'll show you that in just a sec. Oh, there it is right there.
Still doing it.
Okay, so then we've made our HDR, and then the first thing I'll do is you can kind of play around with the exposures, because it's fully editable, so you can do it however you want it. But what I'll do is I'll kind of get it just right, maybe on the outside, maybe a little bit brighter. It's okay if if it's brighter than normal outside. Like, it's okay to not focus on that. But then, and this is, you get to play with this. I can show you how to do it later, whatever. This little guy is a radial filter, okay? And so it will just apply a brightness to a certain part of the image, okay? And so I'm actually going to drag it over this, okay? I might shrink it. And I'm in like 200 pixel mode here. Everything's tiny. Here we go. Now I'm going to uncheck this because I'm actually going to apply this to the rest of the photo I wanted out here. So I'll uncheck that and crank up the feather, make it nice and soft, and then boost the rest of the photo. So that way I'm not really crushing the whites outside, but I am boosting the interior. And then what we were talking about earlier, I know my lens. A lot of lenses, if you have a lens that's like a Nikon lens or a Canon lens, anything like that, if you click Enable Profile Corrections on the right-hand side, it fixes the distortion automatically because it like knows, okay?
Where is it distorted?
I'll show you. So we don't have a line very close to the edge, but let me get you here. Let's see. Well, so this camera does have pretty low distortion, I guess, upon crazy inspection. But if there were a long, if there was like a constant line right here, you would see just a tiny bow. And to be honest, like when I first started shooting, I wasn't even fixing that, and most people didn't notice. But now that I know that it's there, I fix it. If I were to be able to click that button for you, it would be very apparent. So I just always do that. Do you see that smidge? And then constrain crop, and there it is. Now that's not even close to what it should be. It should be way cooler than that, which you'd want to change in the camera. So like, that's a good example of taping before you paint. So now, let's say I've left. I don't really remember what that looks like, you know? But in the picture, it's really warm. So I'm gonna have to like guess on the computer what it looks like and like cool it down, you know? But it's not gonna be as good as if I would have done it before. But I got nervous and I just took the pictures because everyone was looking at me. But see, it's quick, but you just do that 50 times, okay? And it's fairly easy. Yeah, it's not like rocket science. It's more where you value your time. It's kind of the same reason I hire someone to like put a roof on my house. Like I'd rather just go to my regular job and do that and let him put a roof on my house, where you guys are good at selling houses and someone else can take the pictures while you're selling houses. If you have a professional do it so I pretty much have a style. Like I'm pretty consistent in delivery. There's not a whole lot of change. I'm not trying a bunch of new things. I'm always looking to improve, but I'm not looking to make any drastic changes. And so that helps like build brands and things like that. And you just see like a lot of these like successful realtors, they have a ton of awesome pictures that all have a very similar like nice look. It just helps everything to have them, whether I take them or someone else takes them. So this one. Okay. Give me 1 second here. Oh my gosh, it's 12:44. Thought I was gonna have like 8 minutes worth of stuff. I apologize.
No, this is good.
Very helpful.
So then, all right. So cool. So then, that one right there. Thank you. Sweet. Appreciate that. So basically, just get to know, like if you want to do this, get to know your camera. Like learning a camera has been the coolest thing that I've done before getting married and having a kid. Like it really is that cool. Like it's taken me all over the place, not just it seems like I go more places now that I'm taking pictures of houses, but even before that, it's super fun. I really do photography because I'm a loner, and so this kind of situation is challenging for me, but it's something you can do by yourself. You don't need any friends. It's great. Yeah, if you don't have friends, man, I'm telling you, take pictures. Super cool.
So I do have a question about, like, how does, not in any way, shape, or form am I interested in becoming a photographer, but I would be curious to know the photographers that are out there offering their services, have they received training, or do they just have a natural eye?
Probably not.
Somebody noticed it?
Yeah, so my photos, I have a Flickr page that goes back to 2004 when yeah, those photos are horrible. Like I had a point and shoot camera, I thought I was like the stuff, you know? And then flash forward a year and my pictures were arguably worse because I was editing them to make them look cool. Where my photos that were just point and shoot shots of my dog were better looking than when I was like in this discovery phase. And so not really. Even professional photographers like who go to college and things like that, they choose marketing degrees and things like that because really you can learn photography. You know, it's the business side of it that's the most challenging part. Yeah, that's
So it's kind of like an artist where you're either good or you're not.
Yeah, you get to choose. I mean, it's the same, like if you were having someone help you design a deck or something like that, just something where their brain is in it, you know, you get to choose which photos you like as you go through their websites. I need to update mine. I feel like mine are a little bit outdated, but like I try to keep keep relevant photos on there, so at least you know like what kind of images I'm producing. I have a blog that kind of shows what I've been doing. Like, so you just get an idea of that. But yeah, there's art to it, but the real estate side is totally different. Like it's hard to remove the art, but you want to remove most of it. You want to keep the aesthetics that make a good photo, but take out the crazy stuff. So it depends on square footage. They start at $129 for the little houses under 1,500 square feet, and they go up from there. I have drone stuff is included. I don't charge extra for that. I don't feel like it takes that much time. It really doesn't to me. I can shoot it up, take the pictures, and they don't even add that much to editing, so I don't like to charge extra for it. But yeah, it really, and then you've got like this page that you so jumped me into, and I appreciate that. You can always hire somebody. You don't have to go through all the photography nonsense. You just delegate it. The thing about me, I hate sitting on photos and I love fast turnaround times. I don't like to deliver photos the next day. That's the latest that someone gets a photo back. If I shoot in the evening, they might get them the next morning, but I don't sit on them. I just give them back to you. It's just I'm proficient at it. I'm proficient at shooting and editing. A couple other reasons why you might hire a photographer. If you are planning on flying a drone commercially, you're legally required to have an FAA certification. That's been my least favorite part about this, because I had to pay $150 and it wasn't fun at all. And the guy was kind of dry, you know. He was like, "Yeah, I just work in this airplane hangar all the time." And I was trying to like ask open-ended questions, like, "Tell me about your cool life in this airplane hangar," and he wasn't. He was like, "This just ain't what it used to be." So you don't have to do that, and you can keep your $150. But drone photography really, really tells a good story about anything. Like this, just showing this yard, like giving an idea of what the house looks like. Super cool. It's not a view that they're ever going to have, but it gives them an idea of what the property looks like. This particular house was that same one with the deck. That's the little deck. See how little that is? He had a hunting tower, like a tower where he would go sit and shoot deer from. Yeah, down. Sorry, it's been a long time. Well, we don't. I'm from Montana. We didn't have hunting towers, okay? That guy made me walk like 4.5 miles.
How dare he?
Yeah, and I was 12. You know how long that is? Well, so he had a deer stand down here, okay, down the hill, and just hanging out right here, I was able to get a shot of where the deer stand was on his property. I didn't have to walk 200 yards away. You don't have to walk 200 yards away. A drone person can do it. Sky replacements are super cool. They're easy to get out of hand. I approach them cautiously. I don't do them if I don't have to, but basically we were getting cloud breaks on this day, and we would get a little bit of sunshine, but there was no blue behind the house at all. And it just doesn't really add anything, so you put one in. In a situation like that, it's easy because there's nothing complex to look at. And then lastly, what's super cool is what's called a vampire shot, where you just can't see the camera. That's probably the coolest thing I get to do, is the vampire shots.
To see the realtor taking the picture in the mirror.
Yeah.
Right.
I was probably like laying in the bathtub during this. But that's one of the things that if a situation presents itself is not an issue at all, because I just do a vampire shot. But that's, I'm Michael. That's all I have to say. Thank you for letting me come and talk to you guys.
Do you own the photos, or is it
Yeah.
on the property of the realtor?
So I own the photos.
We get a license?
Yeah, like I've never had any issue with any, like my prices don't put any restrictions on it. I mean, I suppose I could get into that, but I feel like someone else would just take the pictures and give you the licenses, and I would be out of a job. So I don't like to mess with that, because so basically, yeah, it's not just like you can only put this on the MLS. Like I oftentimes in the Dropbox will get accesses from like the people who make brochures and things like that for farms and stuff. So yeah, you get full rights to print. Ultimately, they're my photos because I can go and then like put them on my website, advertise myself with them, that kind of thing. But yeah, there's no, once they're in your Dropbox, you download them, like you can keep them forever. Then you have to abide by whatever rules the MLS might have on sharing those. I don't know what it is, but sometimes it was weird. Like an old listing, you couldn't like see it or something, but.
So does it bug you that your pictures will end up on Zillow and Zillow will
Nope.
do whatever they want with the picture?
Nope.
Are there lawsuits around the country from photographers suing for that? Because I would think it would be an issue. Because I mean, Zillow's just a big old.
It's a different type of photography. If Zillow was using one of my nature photos to advertise themselves, then it'd be on. But if they are, like, the realtor is ultimately the person who's putting them on there. And so I'm giving the realtor access to put it on there. You're hiring me to take a great advertisement photo, essentially. Because when you put it on Zillow, you're advertising a house. And so I'm just the one taking the media. Yeah, my river shots and my shots of the Cascades, totally different. But this, you're paying me to do a job. It's to take photos and give you photos, and you have the photos. It's not.
I was just thinking, if 5 years down the line, Zillow's still going to have your photographs on that house, and it may even be a different owner.
They do.
Yeah, because they save everything.
But it is more than likely that the realtor that's coming in 5 years later will want new photos. And I'll replace them then. But it's just, the real estate thing is more of a hands-off. It's more transactional than a licensing agreement.
What is really irritating is when 5 years later, a FSBO uses the photos you paid for 5 years ago to
Yeah.
sell their FSBO on Zillow.
They can do that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, FSBOs. I have bad nightmares about those. I don't even know what that means. Oh, yeah, that would. Oof. Yeah, that's a little bit, because ultimately once I give it to the realtor, I don't worry about it. I don't want to worry about it because that's right there. You've like sparked this thing in me that's like making me a little upset, but
Now
No.
you're starting to feel
Photographers
it.
will watermark, right? The
I don't like to
photographer
do that.
watermark, because it can't, right? That's an ad on a photo for the house. You're not supposed to have any
Yeah.
ad on the photos.
You want it just to be a
Do
photo.
you have it in the file attributes that shows that it's your product?
I think when I export them, it strips all that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like it strips it strips most of the stuff. It's like, it's just one of those things. I mean, it's a digital world we live in now, and that stuff's just gonna, once it's uploaded, whether it be Dropbox or something else, it's there forever, so. But if you have any other questions or need a listing shot or have questions about taking photos, I'm always game to talk shop. If you want to shoot me an email and give me a chance to think about it, and then I'll email you back. But I appreciate you guys listening to me.